Today we're starting section 4.3 and the objective is to solve word problems. So before we start solving word problems, we're going to do a quick recall section. And the recall again goes back to SOHCAHTOA. So I just want to refresh your memory on this. Only time we'll use SOHCAHTOA is in the case of a word problem, because when you're dealing with a word problem, it's hard to visualize your XY axis and your radius. So remember that this stands for sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. This stands for cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. And just to kind of recap, if here's my triangle, and it's a right triangle and my theta is located at the bottom, then this would be considered opposite. This one would be considered adjacent, which means next to. And the one across from the 90-degree angle is always considered your hypotenuse. If I put the theta in the opposite corner, your opposite and adjacent would switch, but the hypotenuse would remain the same. So before we start the word problems, we're going to talk about some terminology you're going to see today. So we're going to draw a picture. So some terminology. Okay, so we're going to draw a building. And here's our little person standing out of the building. And we're going to just draw a few things. So up in the air is going to be our airplane. And down on the street will be our car, old school style with our box car. And we're just going to do some labeling. So just so when we read these word problems, we're familiar. So this line is going flat would be the line of sight. So this is your line of sight. So if we're looking up at the airplane, this is our line of sight above the observer. If we're looking down at the car, this is below the line of sight, below the observer. And then two key definitions, and you'll probably deal with these the most, is your two different angles. So this is your angle of elevation. So anytime you are hear the word elevation, angle of elevation, that means it's the angle that would be traveling upward. Whereas down here, this is your angle of depression. So if the word problem says angle of depression, you will locate the angle that would be going down. Okay, so we're going to take a moment and write out the next word problem. I'm probably going to have to write the word problem on one screen and then switch to the next screen to actually do the problem. So please make sure you're writing this down with me. So we're only going to do two examples today. Let me get the blue. Okay, so sighting the top of a building. So sighting the top of a building. A surveyor measured the angle of elevation to be 22 degrees. The transit is 5 feet above the ground. And 300 feet from the building. find the building's height. So again, I am going to have to switch the screen to complete this problem, so please make sure you write this all down. If you haven't finished writing it down, pause the video and copy it down. Before I go to create the picture, we're going to just highlight a few things that are of importance. Let me get my highlighter. Okay, let's see. Alright, so one key thing is right here. It says the angle of elevation is 22 degrees. So that means the angle that's going up. A transit, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of what a transit is. So a transit, sometimes if you're looking at construction workers, you see this little kind of like a camera sitting on a tripod. That is a transit, and that's just to make sure everything is level. So our transit is 5 feet above the ground, and it's sitting 300 feet from the building, and I want to know the building's height. So I need to get all of this information depicted into the picture. So on the next screen, we're going to make our picture. So here is our, let me get the pen back. So here is our person that's looking at the transit. And again, they are 5 feet. So the transit's sitting here. And if this is my building over here, I know that it's 300 feet. Let me fix that. So the building is 300 feet from the transit. And if it's an angle of elevation, that implies they are looking up. So we're looking at the top of the building. And I'm going to put this 300 feet to kind of close in our triangle right there. Angle of elevation is 22 degrees. And I want to know the height of the building. So we're going to have to kind of work in stages here. First thing that we're going to have to figure out is the height of this piece right here. So we're going to find that piece first, and then I'll have to add in that extra 5 feet to find the total height of the building. So going back to SOHCAHTOA, and again, word problems are the only times we have to do SOHCAHTOA. 22 degrees is our theta. This would be opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So what we do know is the adjacent side. What I want to know is the opposite side. So that means we're dealing with tangent. So tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. So tangent of 22 degrees is equal to opposite, what we don't know, over 300 feet. So to get the opposite by itself, I'm going to multiply both sides by 300. So my opposite side is going to be 300 times tangent of 22. Now, if you're using a cell phone calculator, make sure you're in degrees. On the iPhones, you have to click 22 first, then hit tangent. On Androids, you can just type tangent of 22 times that answer by 300. So when I do this calculation, I roughly get 121 feet. However, that is not the height of the building. That's the height of this piece right here. So the height of the total building, I have to add those 5 feet in to account for the transit. So our final answer is 126 feet. Alright, so we're going to do one more problem, and then that will be all for today. So again, please write this down as I write it. This one's a little bit shorter. So it says a building that is 21 meters casts a shadow 25 meters long. Find the angle, of elevation to the sun. Okay, so if this is our building right here, our building is 21 meters tall. So we're going to get some labels on here. So my building is 21. And if the shadow is over here, that means that the sun has to be located on this side of the building. So here's my sun. And it said that the shadow is 25 meters long. So this is 25 meters. And to kind of close this in, and then it says find the angle of elevation to the sun. So elevation implies that the angle is going to be looking upward. So that means the angle of elevation would be the one in the bottom corner, because notice it's going up, whereas this angle is traveling down. So if this is my theta right here, this is opposite, this is adjacent. So again, we're dealing with tangent. So tangent of theta equals opposite, which is 21, over adjacent, which is 25. Notice the unknown is the angle, and in order to find the angle, you need to use the inverse. So to find my theta, we use the inverse function, and then we type 21 divided by 25. Again, iPhone users, you're going to have to type 21 divided by 25, get that decimal, then click the inverse tangent. And this is achieved by hitting second tangent. And when I do all that, I should get an angle roughly around 40 degrees. So that's all for today. We'll pick up with this tomorrow.